All right. What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Nerd Holes. Tonight, Will and I are going to cover Secret Invasion episode 1 to episode 3. And just let me be the first to say it feels great to finally be able to be in my real skin and not have to wear this disgusting human identity and act like a disgusting human.
I know.
Yeah.
It
Feels
feels so
good, right?
liberating.
Yeah. Feels so free. Just wish I wasn't wearing this human sweater.
But it looks so
Yes.
comfortable.
It is very comfortable. That's the one thing humans are very good at making is clothing.
But we
Yes,
do want
but
to keep it. We do want to keep it under wraps.
oh, yes. The whole secret invasion.
That's right.
Oh. So perhaps we shouldn't use our real identities until the conclusion of the invasion. Would that be fair to say?
This would be fair to say, yes.
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, here I am, the real me, with nothing else whatsoever.
Oh,
Yeah. So Will and I are covering episode 1 to episode 3 of Secret Invasion.
you have been invaded secretly.
Oh no, my mind. So Nick Fury finally returns from a space station near you.
Mm.
And so what are your thoughts, William?
I am okay with it.
Disgusted.
I hate it. No, I'm okay with it. I do wish. It's the thing where it's like I like the acting. I generally like what it seems like they're building to.
Yeah.
Kind of just seems like up until the last like 5 or 10 minutes of episode 3, it's been kind of like pick on Nick Fury, make Nick Fury look bad.
Yeah.
We don't really understand what's happening in the sense of like what matters, what doesn't matter. Is Nick Fury in on it? Is he not in on it? It's like that's what's hard.
Yeah.
I feel
I
like
agree with
for
that.
the first time in a while, for a show that I was really looking forward to, it's like I'm hoping that episode 5 and 6 like really seal, like button everything up really nicely, and then looking back you're like, oh wow, that's cool that was this, and this person was a Skrull, and this person when they said this thing at like this
Yeah.
big reveal at the end. Otherwise, if it's not a big reveal at the end, it's kind of bland.
Yeah, I hope the show doesn't become a way for them to phase Nick Fury out without just keeping Nick Fury out. You know what I mean?
Right.
If Nick Fury's storyline is better off where he just was living on a space station and that was the end of his story, if that turns out to be better than what they do in this show to make the end of his story, and not that I think this is like him leaving the MCU, but if that is what it is, then it needs to pick up the pace a little bit, I would say.
Right, exactly.
Because I haven't hated the show. It's
No,
entertaining.
no.
It just needs to do something,
Yeah.
Because like you said, it feels like Nick Fury has been such a the puzzle piece that has brought Shield and the MCU and basically the Avengers together. And if at the end of the day, like that last episode 3 really kind of digs into like I'll never remember his name, the main Skrull guy.
Oh, Talos
1. Yeah, so they kind of get into like him saying like, oh yeah, so this thing you did, that's me. This thing you did, yeah, that's us. This
Mm-hmm.
promotion you got, this is because of us. This is because you used us. So at the end of the day,
Yeah.
if it literally becomes like we've seen Nick Fury as like in a head of Shield and not taking really direct orders from like government and kind of doing his own thing. If at the end of the day that's kind of like overshadowed or ruined by this show saying like, oh well, the Skrulls did everything the whole time anyway. Like Nick Fury really doesn't deserve his
Mm.
role or promotion or any of that stuff. Which kind of was the feeling I got from episode 3, to be honest with you.
Right. Right.
Because you were
Yeah, it's
not
true.
enjoying like the first two, and I was, and then episode 3, I was like kind of really like I don't really like the way they're going with that. When Talos is really telling him like, yeah, like you didn't do any of this stuff. Like all of us Skrulls were like spies for you. We infiltrated government systems. We basically gave you your job.
Right. Right. Right.
I don't really like that.
Yeah.
I think it makes a
Yeah.
cool
Yes.
story and backstory, and it makes sense, right? From the timeline, it makes
Well, of
sense.
course. Of
And it
course.
makes sense that he would do that, but it just I don't want Nick Fury to be like outplayed essentially.
Right. That's like the biggest issue I have is just the fact that like I don't like, and it may just end up being it's a thing that of going forward, and he ends up being in on it the whole time, and like no wool was pulled over his eye. Then it'll be great, and it'll be wow, that was amazing, and I really enjoyed it. But if it ends up being that he's just like they're playing him, like he's
Yeah.
old and he's a has been, and if it wasn't for all these other people, he never would have accomplished anything. It's not enjoyable because the
Yeah.
character's been so cool and so interesting and so like slick that now you're going to paint him as like it'd be like at the end of Endgame, be like, oh man, Tony's gonna gotta make the play, and then he's just like, no, nah, not gonna do that.
It would almost be this thing to agree with like what you're saying. It's almost this thing where if you've seen they showed in Endgame, like every time you see Iron Man, Tony is just like in his office in the suit is just doing the work.
Oh, like yeah, like three. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Right. So it's like he was never in it. He was never in any danger. Not that it's the
Yeah,
same extreme, but it's kind of the same as like, well, yeah, Tony didn't do
yeah.
any
You
of that
take the
stuff. He just
feeling out of it. Yeah.
yeah.
Honestly, that's probably my biggest thing is complaint is looking at what's to come. Like, will it be worth it type of thing. I hope it does, but it just has been, I don't know, it's just been kind of lackluster for me. I like it, but it's one of those things that I only like it because of what it can offer rather than like
I
liking it as a show.
even if it kind of ruins Nick Fury,
Mhm.
at the very least, it needs to set up something like major for towards like
Well,
Avengers.
yeah, that's my issue. Is like if you're gonna ruin Nick Fury, then you better be like you're saying, like set up something. Like we're now leaping to the next thing, whatever it is.
Because that's honestly my biggest complaint with Marvel as of late is like some of these Disney Plus shows have been really good and entertaining, but
Right.
they don't go anywhere. They don't fill in anything. They don't set anything up
Right.
for like theaters that you're looking forward to. And then, then we get to see Kang in Ant-Man
Yeah.
and it's great. And then he doesn't really do anything in that movie.
Right.
And it's like one of these, like what movie is going to be the turning point,
Yeah, because I think if you think about it, what was it? So we had Iron Man, Iron Man 2, Thor, Incredible Hulk, First Avenger.
Yeah.
So 5 movies, and then Avengers 1.
Yeah. And think
Yeah.
about what those movies like individually like set up for the first Avengers movie. I
Right.
mean, everything, right? Everything. The Tesseract, Loki,
Yeah.
everything.
And now you look at it, there's been 10 movies since Endgame, and there's still no big setup. Like there's been a
No.
big movie payoff. There's been a lot of setup, but there's been no like big payoff. Not yet. Because the big thing was like, well, Strange is going to be the big payoff. and it's like that wasn't really that big of a payoff. And it's
Didn't really
like
do anything.
Spider-Man was really good. It was a great payoff, but it just it just tied to Spider-Man.
Spider-Man is a great movie, but it's a great standalone movie.
Right.
It doesn't push anything forward other than Peter Parker kind of being on his own.
Right. Yeah.
And I love that, and I'm excited for that. I'm excited for like Peter to be his own Spider-Man without like Aunt May and friends and
right
being tied down with like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But nothing has really pushed anything forward, and that's what I'll say about Phase 4. It just really hasn't. There's been some things I've enjoyed, but it just hasn't grabbed me.
Right, exactly.
In a sense. And it makes me sad because I love it.
Yeah.
But at least it's not Flash. And it's not Shazam.
Not anything.
Yeah, you haven't even talked about that, Will, how they've ruined your favorite character of all time. Well, both of them, actually.
It's true. It's true. That's all they keep doing.
Will, I was at Will's house last week, and it was sad. He had a garbage bag out, and he was just going down his shelf. All his Flash, Shazam stuff, just right in the bag.
Right in the bag.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
I never put them in the garbage because those are good.
Right. Those are based on the comics.
I have any Zachary Levi or Ezra Miller.
Why would you? Really? Why would you? Even they don't.
I don't know.
Even they don't have those.
Yeah. It's just a thing where you just got to deal with DC not being good, and we'll see what James Gunn does.
Can't do anything worse.
That's where we're at. Yeah, let's hope not. But the thing I was looking at with the MCU, it's like you look ahead, it's like, Secret Invasion, and then it's like the Marvels, which is going to be a self-contained movie. I can't imagine it's going to do too much.
And I don't think anybody is even excited for that. I don't think anybody's like.
Then you got Captain America: Brave New World, which should be good, but I don't know what. But
that has to. That we say this every time. We've said this with Doctor Strange. We've said this with Ant-Man. Like before we go, we're like, this has to propel the story, right?
The story, yeah.
I've heard rumors that Brave New World it'll be the third movie, like one being Endgame, two being Infinity War, and then three being Brave New World, to have the most cameo guest appearances. Is what I've heard.
All right.
So got to do something, right? I mean, how could you have? I mean, I've even heard rumors that Ben Affleck is coming back to play Daredevil in that. So if that's the case, then it's gonna have multiverse stuff going on in it, right? It has to.
See, I don't know if he was signed into that or if he was signed into the Deadpool movie, but I just don't know.
I didn't hear it was Deadpool. No.
Okay.
But you know how everything is. It's all rumors and speculation. But I mean, we've said that before, and look what happened in Spider-Man. And remember all those rumors about Tom Cruise being Iron Man, and that was actually a thing that they were trying to do.
That was just a COVID thing.
They'll do it. If he doesn't kill himself making the next Mission Impossible movie, he'll do it. He'll do it at some point.
I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's pretty much Brave New World and Thunderbolts, which I don't know what that's going to do. Blade, which I don't know what that's going to do. And then Fantastic Four. Then we're into it, It's just it's just weird.
Who did I just hear was being cast as Johnny Torch. I don't know if you heard.
Oh, I don't know. No, I don't know.
Somebody was
I
either
don't know.
being cast or they were being asked. It wasn't bad, if I remember right. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, see, I thought Blade was like way out.
I mean, it is. It's like end of next year.
No, I thought it was even further than that. So that's the other thing too, is like if you're really trying to sell the fans on this new cast of Avengers, like right now, like I don't really care. And I just
Yeah.
heard too the other day that like Thor will be in the new Avengers. Like still
Okay.
is what I heard.
Okay.
Because I think it's one of those things where like they didn't originally want him to be, but I think they kind of know that like there's nobody currently that people are going to be like dying to see in the Avengers. So I don't know. It's like who's going to be in the Avengers right now? Like She-Hulk, maybe Daredevil.
I mean, technically, we haven't really seen anybody made an Avenger except for maybe Hawk. What's her name? Kate Bishop. There. It's about the only person who had like an official Avenger kind of like adapter into it.
Did she really? Yeah, I don't remember.
I think kind of. I guess maybe She-Hulk because of the connection to Bruce, but
yeah, and Bruce
it's just this thing where you watch all this. Yeah, it's just you watch all this stuff, and it's like they're like, "Oh, look at this cool thing." You're like, "Cool." And it's like, when is that happening? Like they just keep teasing more and more.
Well, they tease they tease Kang like way back in like the Loki show. That was like the first show that like came out on Disney Plus, and they're like, "Hey, so Kang," and you're like, "Oh man, sweet." When is that paying off? And they're like, "Oh, that won't be until like Kang Dynasty in 2035," and you're like, "Wow, that." Can't wait to see how that.
We gotta set him up. You're like, I don't know if we gotta wait that long to set him up. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
He's also like an MCU character that's kind of been like forgotten about since his movie.
Yeah, sure.
Where does he fall into that, you know?
It's true. I didn't think about that. Kind of forget that.
I don't know. Yeah, I know. And so what does She-Hulk? She-Hulk brings back Abomination. She brings back what's his name there? The Sorcerer Supreme.
Oh yeah.
And Charlie Cox makes an appearance as Daredevil.
Yeah.
And Kingpin. No, Kingpin was brought back, and yeah, that was cool. So they have all this stuff now. It's like at the time we were watching it, we're like, man, that's awesome. They brought back like these guys. But now I'm just sitting here and I'm like, are they gonna do anything with them, or is it just like a fun, like, oh, it's just a fun guest appearance for the fans? Like, okay, that's great, but I had hoped it would be like more.
Right.
And I don't know. I'm sure it will be.
I assume so.
Like we always say too, when we talk about Marvel, is like we have to get to mutants. When do we get to mutants?
Yeah, I'm kind of tired of it now.
Look at this beautiful picture behind you. Look at all the mutants.
There's Beast. Yeah.
Yeah, look at Iron Fist is down there, which that's a Netflix show that everyone remembers, right?
Yeah, everyone.
You forgot about that, didn't you?
No, I never forget about that. I don't know.
I don't even know if I finished that, to be honest with you.
I definitely didn't.
What was it? Because I like that guy. I kind of like that guy.
Yeah, it was fine.
You know what it was?
Just the fact that they just dragged on.
Yeah, and what is with these? Some of these like shows, they're like, okay, so this is Iron Fist. This is his origins. You're like, okay, cool. Doesn't wear his costume, doesn't punch anything the whole series. Oh, that's exciting.
Really
It's literally
cool.
like if they made a Spider-Man Netflix show.
Yeah.
And the whole first season was just about like Uncle Ben dying.
Yeah. And him working at the Daily Bugle as a photographer.
Oh, yeah. What makes Spider-Man not fun? Like, oh, him being Peter Parker, going to school
Right.
and taking pictures for the Daily Bugle. Like, let's do a whole season on it. Really dig into these pictures.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, really good. And then the finale will be Uncle Ben dying and him putting on the first appearance
glove.
of Spider-Man suit. Yeah. Like,
No, not even the suit. Just the glove.
yeah, that's true. So looking at Secret Invasion.
Yes.
Um,
Wow.
That's okay. So looking at Secret Invasion, what I think the biggest sorry, I thought somebody was talking to me. The biggest thing that I wonder is, okay, you look at everybody.
Yeah.
Who's the Skrull? Who's not the Skrull?
Elos is the scroll.
Got it.
His daughter is the scroll. Who
Okay.
is the scroll? Who's not? So we know all of like those major government agents are scrolls.
Yeah. I eat pieces of poop like you for breakfast.
Yeah, it's true. He's a scroll.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gavin
But-
Shooter. What was his name from Happy
Yeah, he-
Gilmore?
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I ate pieces.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He
You
goes,
eat
I
pieces
eat
of
pieces
poop?
of for babies? Yeah. So, this is my theory, and then you say how wrong I am.
Well, right off the bat, so the first episode, how great was it to see Martin Freeman? How great was it to see him
Yeah,
like in the show?
be a scroll? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Yeah, but just him coming back
Oh yeah, no, it was cool.
was always great.
I did
What was the last thing he was in?
Wakanda Forever.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so talk about Mandela effect.
Mm.
I have like memories of him and Elaine from Seinfeld doing stuff. And I'm like, I don't know what movie that was. I have no idea what movie that was.
Yeah,
Was that
yeah, Wakanda?
was that part
It's
of
Wakanda.
She-Hulk? Yeah. That was that
No,
movie,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I am on the fence
Yeah.
about Maria Hill being dead.
Daughter.
No,
Maria Hill.
Fury's second in command lady.
Oh. Yeah.
I don't think she's dead.
I would find that hard to believe that they brought her in just to kill her off in the first episode.
Yeah.
Right. And I think you're right. I think that's probably one of those like deep spy infiltration, like fake your own death.
Right. And the thing I was
What if
thinking too is
she's been a scroll the whole time?
that's kind of what I was wondering too.
Yeah.
But the thing too, we also saw like Nick Fury get like killed in the movies, and then he comes back. And remember, like he gets like he's dead, and then in Winter Soldier he shows up in Steve Trevor's or Steve Rogers' apartment, and he's not dead. So it's like
No, he
it's
showed.
like,
Doesn't
well,
he show up for the first time at Hawkeye's farm?
That's not
with the
Age,
tractor?
that's Age of Ultron.
But wasn't he dead before then? Or no, he kind of just came back from something. Because he had been gone.
I think it's he is dead. They pretend that he's still dead at the end of Winter Soldier, and so therefore in Age of Ultron he continues to pretend he's dead.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But yeah, it's so like I'm on the fence The second thing is I 100% do not think that Rhodey is. I think he's a Skrull. That scene with him in the restaurant just screamed, "I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not War Machine Rhodey. I'm a Skrull."
Yeah, it didn't seem too.
He was
War
like
Machine, did he?
super jerk. He was like a big jerk to that lady that
Like-
he didn't like, that foreign country person. They were like, oh, he was like, if that person says this thing one more time, I'm gonna carpet bomb them. And I was like, you're gonna murder somebody because they're giving you attitude. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you're an Avenger. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. They could very well be setting that up that like this is not Rhodey. Like this is not how you remember him.
And I think
Or maybe he after Tony he just has become just a piece of garbage. Yeah. It's one or the
maybe
other.
it's possible. But the other thing I think too, and it could just be a tune in next week nonsense, but at the end of season 3 or episode 3, I should say, his Fury's wife takes that phone call, and it's like clearly Don Cheadle is talking to her on the phone. It's like his voice.
Oh, yeah.
So it's
yeah.
So it's like I just assume even more so it's not him, but I don't know.
I didn't overly pick up on that, but I didn't. I think I was watching it with like subtitles on because I was doing something else was going on.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and rewatch that and see if I notice it's Don Cheeto. Here, but my biggest, I think, honestly, why I didn't pick up on that is my biggest question is like, you see that all the time in movies. People go into these bank vaults and they have like their own individual thing. I've never once seen that like in my own life. Maybe just because I'm not like a spy or like a billionaire. But do like people really have like these little like?
I think there's lock boxes at the bank. I think so.
Long lock box. Yeah.
I think so. I've never seen one either, but
and there's always a gun in it.
Oh, there's always the gun or a passport or a thumb drive or something, right?
A passport I get and a thumb drive I get, but like bringing a gun into a bank through like the metal detector and then putting it in the safety box and then picking it up and taking it out is so like
done.
over the top. Yeah. Because as soon as it's one of those things where it's like, oh, she's getting something and she opens it and it's an envelope and she opens the envelope and it's like it's a gun. You're like, got it.
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
Because like they're trying to make that scene like suspenseful. Like she opens it and it's like, ooh, it's an envelope. What could be in the envelope? And then she like opens the envelope and you're like, oh, it's a gun. She has to kill someone. Isn't that crazy? Like, yeah, it's something.
It's a miniature Nick Fury.
It's his eye patch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the thing, right? Like she's been a spy her whole life. She's lived with Nick Fury her whole life. Like she doesn't have a gun at the house. She doesn't have like a Skrull weapon. She has to go to the bank to get a gun.
And then it made me seem like in episode 2, it made me think that Fury doesn't know that his wife is a Skrull. But then episode 3 made me think episode 3 made me think that he does know.
Yeah, he does. That's the thing. So like season 2 or episode 2, they end with like her as a Skrull cutting vegetables, and as he like walks in stealthily, like she's changed to a human by the time he gets into the kitchen. And you're like, oh, that's cool. And the next episode, he's like, hey, so Remember when we used to do all these missions and like you would change into other people and like you were a spy because you're a Skrull, and it like immediately just got rid of this whole like cool like mysterious angle.
Right.
Like, oh no, he knows. Like, oh,
It's, so that's
what
kind of
if
my yeah.
what if the last episode Nick Fury gets killed and it's not Nick Fury?
So that's the other that, and that's my last thing is I almost wonder if Nick Fury is a Skrull.
Yeah. Like they
I don't
almost
know.
have him like hidden somewhere so that
Yeah.
he can't like stop what's coming. Yeah. I think that
Yeah.
would be very interesting. Because so the last time we saw Nick Fury was in Far From Home,
Technically,
but it was
so
right,
yeah.
but it wasn't.
No, it was. No, the very last time we see him is in Far From Home and he's on the space station and he asks where his slippers are or something.
Yeah. But yeah, so he's in that entire movie. And it turns out at the end that like him and his partner are like Skrulls. Like
Right.
so that's already an interesting concept that like they would take his identity. So what's the rule? Because you see the bad guy, he's got all these people in these like stasis things. And those are the people that they turn into.
Yeah.
So they like can't turn into people if like that person's still like around, like out in the world.
No, they can. It's just making sure there's no
Like
chance
you couldn't
that
get
that
caught.
person-
Yeah.
Right.
Seeing the same person twice.
right. And apparently hooking up to that machine allows you to access like
And
memories or anything. So it's a
Yeah.
thing where you freeze them. Now there's no chance that they're going to get caught or bump into these people or have that weird moment where it's like Back to the
Yeah.
Future where it's like, hey, wait a minute, didn't I just see you over here? And so my understanding from what they've presented is they have to see the person to become the person. They have to
Mhm.
physically have a file
Right.
or see the
Yeah.
person.
Because that's how they
And
started. They
then
gave them files.
and then they can touch the individual and take their memories.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, it's funny too, like how even like the Skrulls get like confused, like the Skrulls guarding that guy that's in charge of like the bomb strike on the sub.
Oh, yeah.
That one guard comes out and he's like, sure, I was just talking to you in your bedroom. Like, oh yeah, right, we can do that. Oh, I forgot we could change. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was funny too, because like that happened, and then it was like they were all scroll guards, and I was like, "What is happening here?" But the kid is real. Oh, it's just really strange.
There's a lot of things going on. Yeah. They really want you to feel that secret invasion.
Secret invasion.
Even kids don't know.
Yeah.
I like that scene too, because he's like, "Hey, are you gonna kill my dad?" And they're like, "No." Immediately shoots him. That wasn't really his dad, but yeah, you get the drift.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting. It's interesting, but I'm only like in it because I'm hoping that it leads to something greater.
Yeah.
And I feel like if it doesn't lead to something greater, it's going to be a pretty disappointing ending.
Yeah, so far it feels like Last Crusade when Indy says that Cross belongs in a museum and the bad guy says, so do you. That's kind of how you feel about Nick Fury.
It's true.
Every time he does something, they're like, why are you here? Like, aren't you retired?
Yeah. Aren't you a
But
joke?
going back to your point about like Rhodey, it seems like firing Nick Fury like officially is like the best way to get him like off of his like trail in a way where he could actually do something about it. Because now he's
Yeah.
like removed, and now anything he finds out is going to be like an uphill battle for him.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope so. Anyway, I don't like the idea of like Rhodey being just this like arrogant jerk now.
Oh man, no, I don't want that at all. I really didn't care for that if that's him. It doesn't make any sense. Like his argument to a degree made small sense because he was like, we're in the real world and blah blah blah, but it's also like, no. And I get it, like he's always been the Avenger that's always stayed on the outside. Like in Infinity War, he was still working with Thaddeus Ross and he was supposed to arrest Captain America. Like he's still working for the government and he's still like, bound by their things, but he never was like a jerk. And I think too, it's like you would think with the Iron Man stuff and the Thanos stuff, like he would be, I don't know, he'd be a little more lighter.
Yeah, he was always kind of like the not the comedy relief, but he was always, he didn't take himself like super seriously.
I
I
think
mean,
you know what?
he's got the military background, and now he's more like probably higher up,
Sure.
so it's more weight and responsibilities, I'm sure. But it's just, I don't think it would change your character so drastically. To like you said, to like just because he got upset, he wants to like destroy
Yeah.
this like
Whatever
I
he
don't-
was, a diplomat or something.
whatever country, yeah.
But I don't know. The thing I think that's happening is in Falcon and Winter Soldier, they set up like there's these pockets of people like rebelling. You're like, okay. And then they said there's some other stuff in the other series where it's like, oh, well, this bad stuff's happening. Okay. But it's a thing where it's a thing that they do a lot. They've been doing lately in MCU, which is they try to make the world that they're living in like our world, where they're like, oh, well, we're dealing with this thing and this thing and this thing, and it's just like, stop. It's like it isn't. We're not in the same planet anymore. It's like people disappeared for 5 years, and things are coming back. It's just like it's not just normal anymore. And I think you constantly see it. Like you watch Shang-Chi, and it's like he's just there in San Francisco, and it's Zippy and Zanny, and he's fighting things, and it's just like, and everything's fine. And I'm just like, nothing would be that fine. What I liked about Falcon and Winter Soldier, was showing that the world was like in shambles, and that like the mega rich had come back and stole things from people that had claimed it in the 5 years of people missing, and then they were like, "Oh well, that you live here, I live here, and who cares?" That made more sense to me than suddenly now you cut to, and it's like, well, everything's fine. It's like, well, it doesn't make any sense. Like that's not how any of this works. It's like the world is different.
Yeah, I agree with that. They're Star Trekking it up
a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know why the appeal is like that, to do that, to like make everything be like, oh, so this is what's going on like in our life. It's like, yeah, but first of all, the reason I go to the movies is to not see that stuff, right? Like I would have just watched the news tonight if I wanted to see that stuff. Like I don't want to see the stuff. I want an hour where I can see like Hulk punching somebody in a world that's like crazy but not mine, and I don't care, right? Kind of the whole thing. So to bring in like real world topics, sometimes you're just like it doesn't need to be like that.
Normally it wouldn't really normally it wouldn't really matter because it's like, well, okay, whatever. It's a commentary on the world, okay. But it's like they've changed so much in the Marvel universe. Like Earth is not the same Earth anymore. It's
Yeah.
so different.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's completely different. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
agree with you. I think that's why like Winter Soldier or Falcon and Winter Soldier was such a good show because there was like this major stuff going on that people weren't like really taking seriously, but it's like people are making sure that like we're gonna do everything we can to like not have
Yeah.
this stuff happen again. Like take it into our own hands if we have to. Like we don't trust the Avengers, we don't trust government. Right. And that's like
Yeah.
like that's great. That's a great concept.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
every other
It's just
show
rough.
just kind of like doesn't matter.
Yeah, and that's the thing that kind of annoys me, I guess is the right way to say it. It's like I don't want people to be perpetually depressed for all things that all TV shows and movies, but it's just like I don't want them to treat it like it's now. I don't treat it like it's the world that we live in now because it's just not. We don't. Everything changed after Infinity War. Like
Yeah.
we might have been on the same page, but Infinity War happened and things changed. Just like the Avengers happen, and it's like, oh, what's the aftermath of aliens being real? Deal with that. It's just stuff like that.
That's what we were talking about a long time ago too. Remember, like when we saw it's a couple parts, right? So in Vision, the Vision show, Vision Scarlet.
WandaVision, yeah.
Yeah. So in that show, when you see the main detective there like come back in the hospital
Oh,
and like she was there with her mom
yeah,
and now like she had come back 5 years later, but her mom didn't get snapped, but her mom died from cancer in the time, and now
cancer,
she's
right,
back. It's like it's this gut-wrenching thing of like losing somebody twice and not knowing
right,
that you're in the future.
right.
And it's like very like realistic and grounded, and
Yeah,
like that stuff is just it's just great. And I feel like we keep getting like further and further away from that kind of stuff
yeah,
in
exactly.
the MCU. Even like
And they
the
have,
one scene in Black Widow, was it Black Widow?
oh, yeah.
Where her
It was,
sister comes
yeah.
back in that apartment building.
Yeah,
Like that stuff is great. And you feel
Yeah.
like the weight of that
or maybe it
the
was
thing that-
Hawkeye.
Yeah, it was Hawkeye because she was yeah.
Yeah, but still.
But you feel the weight of like yeah, so like Thanos won, then the Avengers went and found him and fought him and reversed it. And the
Right.
Avengers won, but you still see this fallout. Like it doesn't fix everything. It doesn't help everybody.
Right,
There's still
right.
people that are going to suffer. There's still people that should have been
Yeah.
dead, right? That's like why Ronan was out there killing like
Right.
bad guys, like people who should have been taken were not taken. It's this unjust thing, and then even when they fix it, it's even worse. It's even more unjust.
Yeah, it's a band-aid to a bigger problem,
And,
right?
and it's this realistic, like human thing moving forward. And they just, like you said, then it's just like, oh yeah, we're in San Francisco and eating ramen, and oh, I'm gonna fight these guys on the train because oh yeah, I remember when I was a kid, I was raised in like Shangri-La, and I was
Right.
taught all this stuff. But now, I don't know. My dad and sister are crazy, but I should go over there and help them fight. And now all these like crazy monsters are coming out of this thing, and this dragon. I got to fight this dragon. It's like, what does this have to do with anything?
And I think the biggest issue is why it's hard to move on is you haven't given me anything to say, yes, the next like point.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, they establish all these things with the first movies and they have alien invasions. And it's like, okay, that's a big event. Going forward, you have Iron Man's PTSD, the finding more of the reality stones, the collapse of S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh, what does that lead to?
Yeah.
Oh, it leads to Banner and Iron Man making an AI that tries to take over the world. Oh, okay. Another like event happens. And it's like all you have is the blip, everybody comes back from an Endgame, and then it's just been like, hey, look at that guy, hey, look at that guy, hey, look at that guy, hey, look at that, hey, look at that guy. And that's all it's been. And I think that's what's hurting everything is they haven't given us something to ground ourselves in like the new reality of what it is.
Yeah.
And I think once they show whatever Avengers movie or next big event movie, you're going to be like, okay, because they keep setting up the multiverse over and over and over again, but nothing's happened.
Yeah, I know.
So we'll see what this does.
It's like they have two plans. They have multiverse and they have Kang, and they just can't get to it.
Yeah,
you know, that's kind of how I feel right now. And I didn't expect to come into this episode and start like talking negatively about a lot of this stuff as of recently, but the more things that come out that you're watching and the movies that you see are like, they're just not.
Yeah,
they're just
not coming together.
Back in the day, right? You had Iron Man, and you had all this stuff lead up. We always talk about it, like. Endgame is like the greatest movie of like our generation, right? It's this thing that started way back here with this one guy, right? Brought Robert Downey Jr.'s career back from the grave, and Endgame, it does this like perfectly, right? But now, like you said, after Endgame, it's okay. So here's Hawkeye show, and you're like, oh, cool. Loki show was first. Like, okay, cool. Right. You liked it. Hawkeye was great. Loki was great. All that stuff. But it just now that where we are, all that stuff now, it just feels like here's a show, here's a show, here's a show, here's a show over here, here's a movie.
Right.
Remember these characters that are in this movie.
Right.
And it's like, okay, that's fine.
Like, but I'm interested and I like it, but nothing's happening.
You kind of lost the plot. You kind of slowly, it's like you slowly doing this, right? So now you're like here, right? And then like Multiverse of Madness comes out. Like, okay, Multiverse of Madness, and like nothing happens.
Right.
Now you're here. It's like Quantumania is gonna be crazy. Quantumania happens. You're like, Kang is in it. Nice. You think it's going to start to do this, and then Kang dies in the end, and now it does this. It's like you're just.
Yeah.
It's going to take some clever writing to bring all that stuff back together, and they might. I
mean, they might, but I mean, looking ahead, like we're to believe that the Loki series, the Marvels, Thunderbolts, the new Captain America movie, and Blade, and the Fantastic Four movie, and like Echo and whatever else in the thing are somehow miraculously going to be like, now you're ready for the next Avengers movie. I don't even see how those properties are going to do that.
No, I don't feel that way at all.
And I think, honestly, looking at what they're doing, I think they're introducing a whole bunch of these people, and then Secret Wars is going to happen, and they're just going to be like, they're just going to pull all these heroes that they just made and do what the comic did, which was, well, we took all these heroes and then we have them fight each other, and that's all it's going to be. And there's going to be like very little like build to this thing.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm not against it. I like the stuff that they put out. It's just
it's interesting. It's interesting too, because like you're saying, like, I don't care about Blade. I've never cared about Blade.
Right.
And so it's like, for him to even exist in this universe right now, it's like weird.
Yeah.
It does this whole thing like now it's like, oh yeah, so vampires are real. And it's like, okay, great. But like, you have like the failed Morbius movie, which doesn't help Blade's case at all.
Nope.
And then from there, it's just like, I don't care if he's an Avenger. I don't care.
No.
But then at the end of the line, right? Like, then you see
Right.
Deadpool 3
Right.
with Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman. It's a Disney movie. It's a MCU, and you're like, how? How do you get
Right.
to that? And is that just going to be a standalone movie?
I think it's going to be a standalone movie, and very conveniently at the end of the movie, it's going to be like maybe Deadpool's in Disney stuff.
I don't
That's
like
what
it.
it feels like.
Because
mean,
if they
there's
don't
no-
if they don't introduce mutants before that movie, and that movie just comes out and it's just Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman as those characters, and they're just like, I don't know, this is like a different universe, or it's, you know, Earth 35 or something. It's like, I don't care.
It's definitely tying up his 20th Century Fox run. It's 1,000% what they're doing.
Yeah, but Wolverine is dead in his universe. That's the thing.
Right. So he's clearly hopping from multiverse to multiverse doing stuff. Which is why I thought Ben Affleck was in that. I think he's hopping. I thought he was hopping from places and collecting people.
Maybe I could have swore I heard he was in
It's very possible.
Brave
I
New
just don't
World.
know. It's
Because that's the
it's-
thing, right? You have this character of Deadpool who physically could bring any character that you want to be in the MCU, that the fans have wanted to be in the MCU. You
Yeah.
have this character now that can just physically, like, so easily, like, you don't even have to write storyline. You don't even have to have it make sense. You literally can just have Deadpool go to a universe, take this person, bring him to this universe. Like, it's
Right.
done deal. Like, they're just here now.
Right.
It's like that straightforward.
It's very, very simple. Yes. Yeah, because Spider-Man did that. It showed how easy it was to bring old character, different movie characters into a movie
Yeah.
seamlessly. It didn't matter. It was like, oh well, what about all that? It's like, all that stuff's fine. All that stuff still exists. Then he's just in this movie now.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing I keep thinking is, like, Peter Quill is on Earth now.
Yep.
So, like,
But again, what? It's like, what does it matter? Because it's like, what are they setting up towards? That's my point.
I
It's
don't know.
like,
yeah.
it's like, oh well, Ant-Man clearly has an in on the Kang. He understands that Kang is a bad dude. So does Loki. But there's been no Loki Ant-Man thing. It's just been Loki at the end of Ant-Man is like, oh yeah, Kang is bad. Yeah, we know Kang's bad. We've known for years Kang is bad.
Loki's in this weird position too, where, like, he can't even tell anybody because he's in this weird, like, time controlled, like, place, and now he's, like, in a different timeline.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I'm
like,
interested to see where a lot of it goes. It's just,
yeah, me too. I mean, I
feel
love
it
Tom.
just
I love
needs
Tom
to-
Hiddleston. Like,
Yeah.
him playing Loki is
yeah.
great. Like, it's always great. But yeah, it's got a lot of story to make up to see where it goes. I don't know. Maybe in 3 more episodes of this, we'll say, like, wow, I can't believe this is, like, where
I
they
hope
went.
so. I mean, I would love that. I would love for them to really shake it up. I think, to me, I think it's just a thing where if the writers are trying and the producers are trying to be like, no, we're getting away from the setup of, 5, 6, 7 movies, Avenger movie, 5, 6, 7 movies, Avenger movie. We're trying to get away from that.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it, but at the same time, that's what you gave the fans. That's what the fans expect. And that's what made the fans keep coming back, was the fact that all the movies in between Avenger movies, they all write their little stories, and then Avengers happens, and this is big event happens. Oh, and then we have little movies from here to there, and the big event happens. It's just
Yeah.
that's why people like this stuff.
Let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
If there was no shows on Disney Plus, would we
Mhm.
feel this way? And what I mean by that is, if we just had the cinematic universe, the movies that have come out,
like we had before.
yeah, is it an overstimulation of, like, Marvel stuff that you can watch at home. There's 10 episodes of this thing, and so you expect it to push the story forward, but also these Disney shows are literally just like this character doing this thing to kind of tie you over between movies. But as fans, we're so ingrained in like, this has to move the story forward. And my answer is, I don't think so.
It's a good point. Let me look at what they.
I just think there's been so much like Marvel stuff as of lately. I think I heard somebody say that from like Iron Man to Endgame was what, like 20 movies?
Like 22 movies, 22.
Right. So now we're in this timeline of like phase 4, where all the movies and all the shows so far have been like almost like more than half of that in like a 2-year, 3-year time span instead of a 10-year time span. You had 20, what did you say, 23 or 24?
22, I think. 22 movies.
So 22 movies in 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
now you have 12.
1, 2.
Now you have 12 things, 12 in 3 years. It's like it's doubled.
So 18 movies before Infinity War.
Okay.
So 18 movies, and that was practically 10 years. It was a few months shy of 10 years. Then you had Infinity War.
Yeah.
19, 20, 21, 22. So 22 was Endgame. And you had Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain Marvel in between Infinity War and Endgame. So in 10 years, they had 19 movies counting Infinity War. 19 movies in 10 years.
Wow, okay. Yeah.
And then in 1 year, they had four movies.
Wow. So that's a lot. That's a lot in 1 year.
So looking at it, if I don't know anything about... Okay,
yeah, maybe can you just list the movies without the shows?
7, 8. So this is the 9th Disney Plus series.
Wow.
So 9 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 movies. So 18. So 18 things. So the same amount of things that we said, not counting Infinity War. 18
in like
things.
A quarter amount of time.
In well, what's this? July 9th. So July 9th was Black Widow. So in 2 years, we've had 18 different things to watch.
Wow. So it's oversaturated.
Yeah. It's very obvious.
So
wow. I didn't even think about it like that.
So without the shows,
it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 movies. 9 movies in 2 years, which is still a lot, but not crazy.
So it feels like they should have been setting stuff up, because if we've seen so many movies,
you've basically, in the same exact feeling, you have watched Iron Man to half of Black Panther, like right now.
Yeah.
Like in 2 years, that's what we've consumed, is that the same amount of content. And then once Secret Invasion ends, it's going to be, oh, we've seen Black Panther, we're ready for Infinity War, which is why it feels like something needs to happen.
Yeah.
So Black Widow was first.
Yeah. Well, Black Widow too is kind of hard too, because that's like a holdout from COVID. That movie.
Yeah. So I don't count Far From Home. I include because they include it with, it's like a tie-up of the other saga, which is fine because it's like goodbye to Iron Man and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. So Black Widow is like the first is the next like jump. So Black Widow was not great, but whatever. I
Well, it was
think if
too
I
late.
yeah, I think if I had just seen,
If we
I
saw
don't know.
Black Widow before Infinity War, I think it would have been a lot different.
Wow. Yeah. So
You
not
know?
looking at that. So Shang-Chi, Eternals, No Way Home, Doctor Strange, Thor, Black Panther, Ant-Man, and Guardians 3.
I never even saw Eternals.
Don't bother.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Kind of was
Um,
out when they said Angelina Jolie was in it. I said, "Oh, this isn't going to be serious."
oh no.
So is it an oversaturation of the market, or is it without the TV shows? Would we be getting to something and we wouldn't be feeling like it's not enough yet?
This is what I feel like. I feel like the TV shows keep you like excited for more MCU content, right? Like right when your interest starts to kind of wane, you're like, well, the movie hasn't been out in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, well, movie, or TV show. So then you're like, oh well, I'll watch this TV show to make the gap between these two films feel good.
Yep.
But I think looking at this, if I only had the movies, I think I would kind of be like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
I think I would be less interested in the MCU because it isn't because you look at it. Black Widow wasn't great. We talked about why it wasn't. Shang-Chi was good. I liked it. So there's one. Eternals was bad. Spider-Man was good. I didn't like Doctor Strange. I didn't like Thor. I liked Black Panther. And the last two, Ant-Man and Guardians, were fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's hard to look at it with different eyes.
See, I kind of like Thor, Love
Okay.
and Thunder. I definitely didn't hate it. And what was the other Guardians 3 I liked?
Oh, it was
Black Panther 2 I did not like.
okay.
But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I agree with you. Like seeing those movies in theaters wouldn't have me like excited or hyped to see what
Yeah,
the
right.
MCU is leading up to, because like it just doesn't.
Right, and it's a thing where like they show Kang and Ant-Man. You're like, well, Kang's cool,
Yeah.
but like that would be the first time you see him, and you're just like, oh, okay. Like, I don't.
It's
Okay.
it's hard. It's hard because after Endgame, there's other characters that should have essentially like their origin movie, right? So
Yeah.
you kind of need to start over. So
Yeah.
like Iron Man gets his origin movie, Captain America gets his origin. So after Endgame, it needs to be this thing where like, okay, so No Way Home is great because Peter Parker becomes like Spider-Man, right? He's
Right.
no longer Spider Boy. That's the way I look at that movie. But then you need other
Yeah.
characters to exist in that timeline where the world is crazy, like you said, and
Right.
now they have their origin story, which propels them to down the line of like where you get the first Avengers movie. So like the new
Yeah.
Avengers needs to be this time frame after Endgame with these new characters that you've been introduced to in a movie. They have the standalone movie that you introduce them, and then you have another character as a standalone, and then they kind of bring them together
Right.
for, even if it's not
Whatever.
an
Yeah.
Avengers movie, even if it's just
Right.
a tie-in movie.
Right. Yep.
And then you like these characters, they've met each other, that's this whole thing, they get signed, they get signed on by the new Captain America signs them on as Avengers, and now it's this big thing
Right.
happens.
Right,
And
right.
it's like you're kind of getting that, but not
Right.
really.
At the same time, not really.
Yeah.
So looking
Because you still
at
have
it,
holdovers. You still have holdovers from the first era, right? The first wave of you have like
exactly.
now like Ant-Man needs to have a third movie and
Right.
Thor
Thor
needs to
had
have
to
a
have a
fourth movie.
fourth
It's like
movie,
it
and
doesn't need to.
right.
So I like Love and Thunder, but you could have focused on a different character and had a different character have a solo movie. And Thor and Natalie Portman stuff could have been thrown into like something else, you know.
Yeah, for me personally, I would just rewrite like a large portion of that movie. But that's okay. We didn't review Thor, so I'm not going to talk about it. So
that's okay. Right. We didn't, did we?
No. No.
I don't know why. Was there?
I had no interest in really seeing it, and like also, it was like wasn't really. I wasn't really going to the movies too much.
Oh yeah,
like
it kind of came out in this weird.
Yeah.
Christian Bale is great in it. I just feel like that character just doesn't have enough, like motivation.
Yeah, there's a whole thing. So looking at the stretch in the same slot that we're in, like the same 2-year slot. In 2 years, they did Iron Man. No, excuse me. In 4 years, they did Iron Man to Avengers.
Oh.
Then Iron Man 3 to Ant-Man. That was 2 years. And then Civil War to Infinity War was 2 years. And that was 5 movies were in between it. So that's like the most amount of movies. But most of the stuff is like in a span of 2 years, like the old phases. It was like 4 movies came out.
Yeah.
And now you look at the 2-year span, and we have 9 movies.
It's crazy. It's true. I guess I didn't realize that Iron Man to the first Avengers was 4 years.
4 years.
So right now we're in a two-year span.
Yeah.
So in 2 more years we should have an Avengers movie with more movies in between.
As of right now,
because like back then there was probably 5 movies altogether before.
For the first Avengers movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
Yeah. So 5 movies led up 4 years, 5 movies to the Avengers, and now we're in this era where it's been 2 years, 18 movies, and nowhere near like Avengers.
Right. Because as of right now, I mean, all the strikes are happening, but as of right now, 3 years from now, we're going to get the first Avengers movie.
Yeah.
3 years. And
I had heard too
18 different things to watch right now.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah,
so
I really think they're saturating the market.
When you think about it, if you follow the same thing, in 3 years, we're going to have like over 40 different things to watch, essentially, you would think.
With one meet-up buddy movie.
Right.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. And I hate to say it, but it almost feels like at that time period, when you finally get to that, like, is anybody going to care?
I don't know. It's so weird.
I had heard too, and I don't know how true it is. I don't know if it's because of the strike or if it's because Disney's losing money.
Mm-hmm.
But I had heard that a lot of those in between movies between the next like Avengers is they're kind of pulling or reworking or adding stuff together. It's because even they are saying like it's too much. We're spending too much money, and like we're not getting anywhere. in the they're starting to see the fan, kind
Yeah,
of
I mean, it's
decline a
just
little bit.
it's just frustrating because it's like you're invested in all these guys and you just want to see the story
Yeah.
be meaningful. I'm not interested in 15 different side stories because it's like, oh, Shang-Chi's got the stuff with the dragon and the 10 rings, and where does the 10 rings lead to? Like, remember the beacon in the rings? Like, well, who's on the other end of that? That's a storyline. In
Oh my
Eternals,
God. No, I don't
the
remember
big giant Eternal thing comes and he collects the Eternals, and then he's going to return to take more Eternals. Okay, what? That's a storyline. And then you have, you know, Spider-Man's like cracks into the multiverse and he does all this stuff, and it's like, well, how deep into the multiverse is things damaged? Okay, well, that's a storyline. Doctor Strange, ends the thing with a third eye and he goes into a different portal with Charlize Theron and he's off doing something. Oh, that's a storyline. It's just
Oh my God.
over and over. And now Kang and Ant-Man. It's like, okay, Kang is a thing. Okay, great. It's just
Kang,
all these
yeah.
open doors.
And the
there's
Kang thing
no-
gets wrapped up in the movie, and then the movie ends. Post-credit scene is like all these Kangs like having a meeting.
Right,
It's like,
Right.
okay, great. So 10 years from now, we'll see what happens with that.
right,
If
exactly.
that guy's even still like hired by Disney after
Sure,
what
sure.
happened.
Yeah, they'll get Terrence Howard to come back and he'll play Kang.
Well, first of all, the guy who plays Kang is amazing. I'll say that right off the bat. Like his acting
Yeah.
as Kang is
His
great.
acting is very good.
But Terrence
acting is very
Howard
good.
coming back would be also amazing to me. I love
Pretty cool.
I love him in the first Iron Man movie.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, I don't got no problem with Terrence Howard.
And then he
Just
turns
be
to
funny.
Don Cheadle. And I like Don Cheadle too. It's just funny. It's just a funny. It's one of those things that happens in a movie where you're like, doesn't matter. Don't pay attention to it. It's the same person.
It's fun. Just like Edward Norton and Mark Ruffalo. Don't worry about it.
That one's a little bit, yeah. That one's easier to remember because the Edward Norton one is such a standalone.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a good one though. Honestly, that's a good.
It is fun.
That was back when they made Hulk movies, and they're like, well, why would Hulk look anything like Edward Norton when he turns into the Hulk?
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, let's not do it then.
They're like, oh, but when he turns into the Hulk in Avengers, he looks like an angry Mark Ruffalo. Like, well, yeah, because he turns into the Hulk.
Yeah, because it's still his human body. Don't worry about it.
Oh man.
Wouldn't it be funny if he turned into Professor Hulk and it was just Edward? It looked like Edward Norton. Yeah, the beard.
Yeah. So this has been Secret Invasions, episodes 1 through 3.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. It honestly became more of a. I guess deep down we were kind of feeling some like,
Some resentment.
yeah, a little bit of resentment, a little bit of just kind of like not super loving where the Marvel line is going. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, it's something I don't really overly talk about that much because it's just like in general, when I look at it overall,
Yeah.
I don't dislike. I
Yeah.
only disliked like 2 or 3 things that they've put out, and overall, I've enjoyed. Of
There's-
the 18 things
yeah.
that they've put out, I've enjoyed like 15 of them. So it's
Yeah,
like,
no, that's a good point. That's a good point to keep in perspective. That there's a couple of things here and there that were just like,
yeah, right. But
but overall, stuff that does come out, we enjoy. I mean, we
Right.
really liked Guardians, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Hawkeye
I
was
just
great.
feel like they're kind
Spider-Man,
of doing
yeah.
this,
yeah, wow, yeah,
right?
yeah. Honestly, you kind of you bringing that to my attention and making me look and like do the math. Like honestly, that was kind of that's kind of the thing, is to take a second and realize that in a matter of 2 years, we've had the same amount of content that we had from Iron Man to Black Panther.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. It really is
In
nuts.
2 years, we've had 10 years of content. which is great if you're a fan of it, but also when you're not actually doing too much and like you don't feel like this thing is happening where like this pinch point is happening. It just feels like all these doors are open and it's like, okay, which door is the monster going to come out of? Instead of being like, I know the monster's in the behind this door, but when is the door going to open? Like
Yeah, exactly.
that's it's
You're
like
supposed to be on the edge of your seat for Kang, but like
right,
your butt's numb at this point.
right,
Because when you
yeah,
first see Thanos, and I can't remember off the top of my head what movie that is, but
Avengers,
it's
yeah,
so it's at the end of Avengers. It's not even Josh Brolin.
no,
It's a completely different like CGI character when he
totally
turns
different
around
guy.
and says like, I guess I'll have to do it myself. You
No, that's
don't.
Age of Ultron.
Oh,
In Avengers,
you see
the
him on the.
other guy says, he goes, Master, he goes, to court the Avengers
Yes.
would mean to court. He says to go after the Earth would mean to court death or whatever like that. And he turns and he smiles because back then, before they changed everything with Josh Brolin, they were going down the storyline that Thanos was in love with death, and that's why he was collecting the Infinity Stones,
Whoa,
like
whoa,
the
whoa,
comet,
whoa.
right?
Wow,
That was
yeah,
like
okay.
that was the past. But then they were like, "We're not."
But then they're like, oh, we don't have the rights to Deadpool. Let's not do that since like
All
he
all
also
of
dates Death. Yeah, it's a whole thing. Okay, right. So that's the one I'm thinking of when he smiles.
that. He
And then the
looks back. Ooh.
next time you see him in Age of Ultron, is he says, "I'll do it myself."
Yeah,
Right.
fine.
So it's like at the end of every Avenger movie, you've seen Thanos, and so like
You're
you
getting
know he's
this like
coming, and it's like this next one you see more of him, and then he
right, and
finally shows up. Yeah.
at the end of Thor, his ship shows up, and you're like, "Oh boy!" And
Yeah,
then they go to
that's rough.
then like Black Panther happens, and they're kind of setting up that like, hey, things are coming. Like, get ready, Bucky, because like stuff's coming.
Mhm.
And then when Infinity War happens, so it's like,
Raise all defenses.
why are you not prepared?
Why are you running? Right. Yeah. So then that's the thing too, is like when Infinity War opens and it's Thor's
Right.
ship, and you immediately are like thrown back into like, oh my god, that's right.
Right.
Like they were
Yep.
on their way to like leaving
Starting-
Asgard.
Right.
How
like
crazy is that? How crazy is that movie when you think about it? Like this crazy stuff happens. Their sister comes, their dad dies, their sister comes back, she takes over the thing, they
Right.
get thrown into this warp outer space,
Whatever,
weird,
yeah.
crazy world. They have to battle an arena. He finds the Hulk. They leave. They finally get off the planet. They take all the refugees. They fight Asgard. They defeat his sister. Ragnarok
Right.
comes and destroys Asgard. They leave, and then Thanos comes and destroys everybody on the ship. Like it is
Decimates half of them.
crazy. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, and it really explains why Thor would be horribly depressed in Infinity War and Endgame.
Oh my
Like,
god, yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, Loki dies in front of him again.
Right.
Thor gets his butt kicked.
Yeah. What's his name dies too.
Oh,
Our
Heimdall.
favorite Heimdall. Yeah.
Yeah, so Heimdall saved all the people from Asgard, hid them away from Helena, and then like immediately like dies like,
Yeah.
a couple of days later, not even.
From Thanos. Yep.
Oh boy.
Ooh, buoy. Yeah, so I don't know.
Ah,
I will like
Yeah, it's
Secret
cool.
War if it ends up. I will
Oh.
like Secret War if it ends up being that he is a Skrull.
or he knows the whole time, like he's been kind of ahead of the curve the whole time, and he's
Right.
playing people. That would make me happy.
Yeah.
All right, so that will wrap up our episode on Secret Invasion, episode 1 to 3, and also our long talks about how we feel about Marvel, which I guess I didn't realize that's how we felt, but now it's out there. So.
Yep.
Yep. But anyway, I got a secret raccoon scroll meeting to get to. I hear there's going to be a bombing. Oh boy. All right. Well, we will see you guys in the next episode when we cover the next three.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's only three more. Is that what?
That's
there's
it.
6? Oh wow.
I got
Nice.
6 episodes to wrap this thing up, maybe.
Well, yeah, 3, baby. Yeah. So hopefully, well, you'll hear about it. We'll talk about it.
We'll see you in August, I guess, whenever it's done.
Yes. See you in August. Okay, let me do this outro.
Yes,
Don't
all right,
interrupt
okay.
me, you stupid bass.